Hello and welcome to the HerSport Awards presented by Gym+Coffee. I'm your host, Niamh Talon, and I'm delighted to be joined by our MC for the night, Rachael Blackmore. I'm proud to stand here tonight as we have the 4th HerSport Awards and our first ever HerSport event. I was a girl with an idea. The attention for women's sport was not good enough. We wanted to make real change, a difference for girls and women of the future. What a show we have in store as we relive the moments of 2021. Celebrating our outstanding sportswomen and diving into important discussion around women's sport. 2021 was an incredible year. Olympic and Paralympic success, Solheim Cup heroes, All-Ireland champions, Grand National winners and undisputed world champions. Fresh young stars emerge, bursting onto the scene with fearless energy, capturing the hearts of the nation and inspiring future generations. HerSport started off as a basic website and a few social media channels. The past 2 years, we have become the recognised source for women in sport, a community of over 65,000 people, and we have brought our first HerSport magazine to print. We're now going to be tonight on national television, and we're just getting started. Congratulations and thank you to all that have been with us on this journey, the people that have gotten us to this point. We're really grateful to work with Gym+Coffee, Revive Active, Sky, Whoop, Club Force and TG Cahir, as well as UCD for hosting us tonight. These are organisations who believe in and support women in sport. We really could not do this without you. Welcome to everybody who has joined us this evening, here and at home. Let's kick this off as I introduce Rachael Blackmore.
Gur míle maithagí fad agus tá míle fáilte romh go dtí na HerSport Awards. Tá mai intach sásta a bheith libh agus a bheith an bhfuirdzanta agus a bheith a measc na mrá speisialta seo a bhain éachtaí de cheití amach sa mbliain fiche chéan. As Niamh said, 2021 was an outstanding year for Irish sport, and the achievements of the women who are nominated here tonight and those who have been chosen as winners deserves to be celebrated. And what better way to celebrate than at an occasion like this, as I look out at a lovely studio audience and we welcome the return of normality. The winners of tonight's awards have, of course, all been chosen by you. Now, the strength of an entire team lies in the hands of each of its members. At the same time, the ultimate strength of each member is the team itself, and this is true for any sports team. While it's important to have a good group of very talented individual athletes, it's equally important to have an environment that brings about team sport and that brings about success as a team. These teams have achieved at the highest level success that many would deem impossible. Here are your nominees for Team of the Year, sponsored by Sky. And the winning Team of the Year is the Meath Ladies Footballers. Cohordzachas allmhór le fudin fel na man chundé na mí a bhain écht de chrétí amach sa mbliain fiche chéan agus bháil an fáilte a chur rih bhainisteoir chundé na mí inis Eamonn Murray in níos edastáte leis an radam a ghlacha. And Niamh is going to present Eamonn now with his award.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, as we know, Meath Ladies Footballers brought about one of the stories of the year last year, and they beat Dublin in an All-Ireland senior football final for the first time. What an achievement. It was one of the biggest upsets, Eamonn, that women's sport has ever seen. But bring us back to when you were first approached in 2017 to take over this team. You were a bit dubious to do so because women's football wasn't in a great place at the time.
No, it was an all-time blow, really. we're only a few points away from Division 4, so when I got called, I said, was I fit for this job, or would someone else do it better, you know? So our chairman at the time was Fergal Harney, so he insisted I take it, so I said I'd give it a shot, and well, the first thing I had to do, then I got a brand new set of management team in from other counties, and I started off from the very beginning, and it wasn't easy. I had to beg players to play for us, you know. It took months and months of begging and phone calls, and at the end, I said, just give me 2 weeks, give me 1 week, and if you're not happy, walk away, you know. It was tough, yeah.
From being slaughtered by Cork in the ladies' football in 2015 to regaining your senior status, what can you pinpoint as the turning point for this team?
To getting every really player I needed, and getting a county board and all the clubs and a good management team together, and a bunch of players to retirement to succeed. And we knew how good they were, but we never really discussed winning our Ireland's ranking. We just approached each game as it came and enjoyed that game, you know.
Was there any one thing in particular, or was it a combination of getting all the right parts together?
Yeah, with good coaches are everything, like, you know. Like, for all I do for them isn't much, I just keep them together, but the coach knew all the hard work. And when you get a county board completely behind you, you know, and whatever we wanted, we got. So with all that, and I think the end product was a very exciting year, not just for us, but for the whole country, really, to watch. So I hope they all enjoyed it.
Oh, we absolutely did, Eamonn.
Yeah.
And you've been involved with the Meath ladies team for over 17 years, but what was it
You shouldn't say that, no.
What was it about this group that made them special?
I had watched them, had coached them from under 12 up, so I knew how good they were. I knew we had a good team, but 2 or 3 young players coming in would change everything, and there were very talented players that came in, like Ora Lally, and Sarah Walls, and Emma Duggins, and a few more, Mary Kate Lynch. They added that little extra something that we needed, and just actually COVID was very good to us. It's a strange thing to say, like, and we won the intermediate championship. The girls went back on their own. We didn't meet them for 4 months, and they came back in better shape than they did winning the All-Ireland intermediate. So.
And do you think it helped bond you as a team as well to have everyone training individually, but that you had that special bond and that special goal during COVID, even though you were apart, that it strengthened you as individuals?
Yeah, it certainly did, and it meant more to the girls when they got back together. You know, that excitement then getting the ball back together. It's tough training your own and in winter nights, but this bunch didn't mind, you know, so that makes our Ireland champions. So all's good.
Despite the consistent progression that you were seeing, do you still think it was an overachievement to get to where you did last year?
No, I don't think so. We had complete confidence in the team that win on the day, you know, and they talk to any of the players, we were going to win. And you could see it before the game and walk around the pitch, and we were so focused, and Dublin players were waving at their family and this and that. We were just completely focused on our job in hand. And it worked very well, and that didn't happen by accident, it happened with the proper people involved, you know.
Looking back at the build-up to the All-Ireland final, nobody gave you a chance, and Dublin hadn't been beaten in a championship since 2016. Was that just extra motivation? Were you quietly confident going along, doing your own thing, minding your own business? Were you happy that the focus wasn't on you?
Yeah, but as you said, we rarely worry about the opposition, we just worry about ourselves. And if we do that, we'll have our job done, you know. And we only ask for 100% from every player and every day. And we got that on the day, so good times, yeah.
Bring us back to the magical scenes on the pitch just after the final whistle blew. Talk us through that moment, what it felt like, and what the days that followed felt like as well.
Well, I forget half of it, but...
That's all right, we'll forgive you for that.
Oh, no. I was magic on the day. The crowd were just unbelievable, like the crowd, to give us such a lift that day, and just to get that crowd back in Croke Park, and the fact it was 80,000 there from Meath, but they were brilliant. The young and old at the game were very emotional after it. And I remember looking at the clock with 2.5 minutes left in the clock, and the next thing, my right-hand man, Paul, was grabbed me. It's over. I forgot. I missed the last 2.5 minutes, did he? Was that sort of probably nerves or whatever it was, you know? So, but the clock really adds that excitement for every day to count down the clock. So actually, a magic week after. Of course, a magic week. There's thousands there, and no matter where I go to work now, everybody knows me, so...
Yeah.
No, it's good or bad, so. But,
you're a poster boy now, Eamonn. But what you've done for ladies football has been huge. And Do you recognise the significance of what you have achieved? And have you gotten feedback from the local clubs or even other counties who've had their own struggles, and seeing Meath win, I suppose, gives them an extra boost as well?
Yeah, of course. Like every county wants to talk now, but like on that weekend, you had Kelly Harrington, Leona Maguire, you had all these, Rachael Blackmore. It was a great weekend for ladies in general, not just us now. It was a magic weekend we'll never see again for ladies sport. And no matter where you go now, every club, every county wants to talk to you, and it's an inspiration for every county. If we can do it, anybody can do it, you know. So it's not all luck or anything, far from it, no.
And how important is it, do you think, to have the ladies' football finals in Croke Park, to have that support, to have it televised on TG Carr? What has that done for the game?
Only for it, for TG Carr, what they have done for ladies is unbelievable. Even just for our family, we're big into the rugby as well, and we watch all the rugby as well, and it's magic for us, and it's just for everyone. Nobody will know anything about sport, ladies football, only for TG Carr.
The success that you brought about will certainly go down as one of the biggest achievements in history. Now, as you look forward to the season that lies ahead, you won't go unnoticed. You have a target on your back. Great teams, they win once. Better teams, they back it up. How are you fixed for the season ahead?
Yeah, we can only do our best. We'll train hard and get a few new players in, and if we give our best and 100%, if it's not enough, so be it. We had a great year last year, but we certainly will do our best, yeah. We're looking forward to it, and we'll enjoy every minute of it.
And do you have to approach it differently this year now that you're the reigning champions?
Of course, we'll have to tweak a few things. By playing that way, next year won't win All-Ireland for us next year. Every other team knows now. We brought a different system completely in last year, and it worked for us. And Dublin had a system, it worked for them for 4 years. We got a different system in, so maybe some other team might change completely next year, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we look forward to it. Chordzachas iris Eamonn méid atá bansamach agat agus an radam atá tilsa gamagi and bula bus.
Thank you much. Thanks.
With each new year, a new wave of incredible Irish sporting talent emerges. From rowers to boxers, footballers to swimmers, these young athletes share a trajectory that is heading one way. The up-and-coming talent are the bright light for future Irish sporting success. Here are the nominees for Young Athlete of the Year, sponsored by Whoop. Congratulations to Mona McSharry, who couldn't be with us tonight, but is the HerSport Young Athlete of the Year, sponsored by Whoop. Unfortunately, Mona couldn't be with us tonight. We did get to catch up with her earlier this week. She has had a great year, obviously, in 2021, and she did claim a gold medal in the SECs in the 100-metre breaststroke in the past couple of days as well. So, start as you mean to go on. We caught up with her earlier, so we'll have a look at that interview now.
First off, Mona, congratulations. You are the Young Athlete of the Year, sponsored by Whoop. An incredible achievement given the calibre of athletes on it this year.
Thank you so much. Oh my God. That's amazing. There was so much good competition that I didn't expect to win, and I guess it's just so nice to look back at such a successful year and see that other people realize that it was successful too.
It was a fantastic year for you, 2021. Take us through the Olympics first off. You know, you were trying to qualify, you achieved that dream, and then you got there and made it to an Olympic final.
Yeah, I mean, I was so lucky that the Olympic qualification was somewhat of, you know, it was great to get it in my first race. It was really nice to just kind of have it over and done with, because it had been something with the extra year that I'd been building to for so long that the relief was just unbelievable, because I knew it was something that I could achieve. And it just gave me the opportunity to really relax and kind of enjoy the journey after I'd qualified and gotten my place on the team. And then to be able to watch and see as the team just grew and got bigger and bigger, even in June when we had our second trials, was just so enjoyable as well. And I think it made the experience so much better to be able to share it with more people.
And then you obviously went out to Tokyo, had a fantastic competition, and became the first Irish swimmer to make an Olympic final in 25 years. What was that like?
I think that was icing on the cake, to be honest. I didn't really anticipate that for my plan. That was probably a plan for 2024 Olympics. So it was nice to be able to finish, on such a high and be able to make it to a final. And I guess just once again, kind of solidify that I have the ability to be up there with the best. And, it just felt amazing. And it was an unreal experience. Even just all the support that I got from back home was really enjoyable.
Yeah, certainly a different kind of Olympics with COVID, but absolutely like great performances from the team. You previously spoke about your move to the US and how that took a bit of pressure off, a change of scenery and a new focus. Talk about what it's like over there and what it was like in the lead up.
Oh, it's been great. I think we had SECs, which we're now competing at right now again last year around this time, and then we had NCAA, so that kind of took up a lot of my focus in February and March before the Olympic trials. And I thought that was great in the sense that I didn't have a sole focus. There was something else going on and more races, more competition. And really out here, it is just so competitive and it gives you way more opportunities to compete, even though it's in a 25-yard pool. Competing is competing no matter how you do it. And I think that really helped me just be ready to swim well in April and then also to be ready to race and compete in the summer. And I do count myself blessed because I'm one of very few athletes that really got an opportunity to compete a lot in the 2020-2021 season, because it was kind of COVID was still pretty difficult to manage at that point. And I know that a lot of athletes struggled getting competition. So I think it really helped me that way. And then just having a team and a new environment to get used to just filled up my time too.
Yeah, it seems like there's a great environment over there, and the size of the team, brings excitement and, like you're saying, drives everybody forward. Moving on to the short course World Championship. So you got yourself a medal again, making history, incredible achievement for you.
Yeah, that was just another great end to, a really good year. I didn't expect I wasn't going in hoping for a medal. I was just my plan was to make it to a final in all 3 breaststroke events, which I did. And then just to be able to, push it that little bit further and to finish as highly as I could place wise and be able to, sneak a medal was just really nice. And, it was great to be able to get my hands on the wall and get third. And then to also be there to witness Ellen, win her first international medal was just unbelievable too. So I think, again, it was just a great competition and we all enjoyed kind of meeting up again after the Olympics, and it was really just a lot of fun. And I think that's the big thing I took from this year was, competing can be really stressful, but at the end of the day, we choose to do this. And I think you have to find the fun in it. And this whole season has just been so enjoyable. And I think that's kind of helped me moving into the new season and making sure that I'm always having fun when I'm racing.
There was great excitement between yourself and Ellen when you both got the medals, and it's great to see that, like, to have, the two of you competing for Ireland and then also racing over there together and training together. It's obviously, great to push the boundaries. Like you're both pushing the boundaries for Irish swimming, and like the amount of Irish records you've set this year. Like, have you counted how many times you've broken different records? Or
no, I don't even know if I could keep a track of that. I think that's, I find it hard enough sometimes to remember my swim times. So I think adding an extra thing would be too much.
Yeah, no, it's been incredible in terms of like what you've achieved this year for it all. And, such a role model for all the young athletes out there. So what's that like, to know that you're kind of at the top of Irish swimming, you're really setting the way for the future?
I mean, it's such a privilege, honestly. It still feels weird to me. I think it always will be that there are little kids and, younger swimmers that are looking up to me, because I still feel quite young myself. And I'm still learning and, figuring out ways to do things and things that don't work. So of course, nothing is perfect, and it never will be. There's always going to be room to improve. But I do really enjoy having the ability to, I guess, show younger athletes what is out there if they stay in the sport. And I know there are hard times, and it's not going to be plain sailing and easy, but it really does give you so much. And I'm so blessed and thankful for everything that I've gotten from swimming and will continue to get, as far as friends and being able to travel and see the world and just getting to do what I love. And I think that's so important, and that's like the big message, I guess. But even having little kids that write letters and ask questions is just, it makes me so happy. And I think Ellen and me both agree that like we love being able to support younger generations and watch them grow too, and it's just so enjoyable.
Yeah, when you hear all the achievements that you've had in 2021, and like you've nodded there that you still feel young, like you are still young. So what does it feel like to have done all of that in 1 year, but at the age that you are?
It definitely was a busy year, I think. And I don't know, I mean, because swimming doesn't necessarily have like an age, like when you get to seniors, it's just everyone together. I think age kind of blends away because, you could be racing against young athletes or older ones, and it really doesn't matter. So I think like I'm just going and taking it one step at a time. And when I get to a competition, I set myself goals and I try to achieve them. And, if I reach those and go higher, that's unbelievable. And that's great. And, it won't always work out that way, but I don't know. Yeah, it has just, I think everything just it just all came together this year, and it was great. And, hopefully I can have another great year like that.
So what's next for Mona McSharry?
Well, I'm currently racing at the SECs for Tennessee, and we're hoping to win that and then go on to NCAAs. And then after that, I'll be setting my sights on a couple of long course meets this summer, like World Championships and European Championships. And yeah, we'll just be setting up preparation for a long course and seeing how that goes, and then hopefully a short course meet at the end of the year again. So it's a lot of travel, it's a lot of competing, but I'm really happy to be back and racing. I think the year off was weird when we didn't have anything during the summer for COVID, and last year we had the Olympics, and that was great. So it's nice to be able to be traveling and competing again.
And in terms of your ultimate goal, like what is the pinnacle for you when it comes to swimming in your career?
It's hard to pick one, honestly. I still have a lot of small little goals left. Of course, my next, probably the goal that's farthest in my future at the moment is definitely Paris 2024. And I've given myself this year not to think about it too much because it is still quite far away. But I think if I'm looking at future goals, that's probably the next big one, with loads of small little stepping stones along the way.
Congratulations on being the Young Athlete of the Year sponsored by Whoop.
Thank you so much.
Cohortchas mór mílteach a rís le Mona McSharry. Wat is an ámaine brise garid fógricht a hoigal, ach nar hiúgus mud a rás beim de bronna an gradam licht na bliana nu Athlete of the Year, agus beim de play an tauchi go sport na man in Éden. Ach rivisin fad, tá cumortas intach áracht alain a gód le Cassidy Travel in ul dús le grochtdal in the mai tussa an frastal Fred Ghornal lichte Katie Taylor in nua áracht in Madison Square Garden. Blana Gearsha.
Win the ultimate holiday package with Cassidy Travel to watch Katie Taylor make history in Madison Square Garden, New York. Courtesy of Cassidy Travel, we have return flights for 2 people to give away, including a stay in the deluxe bedroom suite at the Fitzpatrick Hotel in the heart of Manhattan. This includes 2 tickets to Katie Taylor's fight against Amanda Serrano at the Madison Square Garden. To enter, head over to HerSport.ie/Cassidy Travel and follow the instructions.
2021 saw success across a range of sports, with each athlete shining bright. You couldn't write the year we had, with history makers, record breakers, Olympic and Paralympic medals, world champions, Solheim Cup superstars, it's incredible to have such role models for women in sport. Here are the nominees for Athlete of the Year, sponsored by Revive Active.
And the winner is Rachael Blackmore. Cohortachas mór míteach leis an marcach duchblite, want she echt starúlamach sam léon fiche hían rud nach nearnú I riamh hana. The Grand National winning jockey was due to join us here tonight, but unfortunately couldn't make it. But we did catch up with Rachael during the week and we presented her with her award.
Congratulations, Rachael. You have been voted by the HerSport community as the HerSport Athlete of the Year, sponsored by Revive Active.
Such an honour, to be honest. Like, for the year that was for women's sport, to be recognised with awards is just incredible. So thank you everyone who voted.
For you, like, it was such an incredible sporting year and so many phenomenal achievements. Is there any one moment that stands out, or is it too hard to pick?
Yeah, look, it was an incredible year. I'm very lucky to be getting to ride a lot of very good horses, but I think, you know, the Grand National on Manila Times was the standout moment. It was just that feeling crossing the line. Like, I don't think I'll ever be able to emulate that again. It was just incredible. And you know, it's a race with such history, and you know, you really feel part of that history now.
With you know, starting off your journey, like the goals that you had, you know, from a child, did you ever think that you'd get to the heights that you've gotten to now?
No, definitely not. Like, I always wanted to ride as a jockey, but I could never envisage that I'd make a career out of it, you know, let alone ride winners in Cheltenham and Aintree Grand National. Like, it's taken a path I never thought would be even possible. So yeah, as I said, like, I just feel incredibly lucky to get to ride the horses I get to ride. I'm associated with a lot of very good trainers, and you know, I'm in a very good position, and at the same time you're just hoping to keep yourself in that position.
In terms of like the documentary, you had a grand year, and we've seen you on the television with the different awards ceremonies, and now you're going to be on television again with the HerSport Awards. How do you deal with all the recognition? Because, you know, with the success that you're having, like, you're obviously out there more, and that adds extra to what you're doing in your day-to-day life. Yeah,
look, definitely. You know, but you know, I just try and think of it as a privilege, I suppose. You know, a lot of people would love to be in my position, and you know, with that comes extra things you have to do, or you know, yeah, so it's a privilege, I suppose.
You had a really memorable quote in 2021 after winning Aintree. So you said, "I don't feel male or female, I don't even feel human." Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it just came out of me. Like, you'd often you know, you'd be thinking before big races, like, oh, I wonder what it would be like to win, and you'd be kind of thinking about what you might say. Like, that just all completely goes out the window. Like, I don't know really where that came from. Like, I suppose it was quite a historic moment for female riders. You know, it was the first female to win the Grand National, so it was an historic moment in that sense. But like, for me, I think the fact that I was able to cross the line in the Grand National and not be hit by that fact, like, I was just thrilled I was a jockey to have won it. And I think that's massively down to all the women who've gone before me to put in the parameters that made me feel like that when I crossed the line. So, you know, there's been a lot gone on all through history to put me into that position, and you know, I'm very proud of all those women to have done that.
Absolutely. Like, when it comes to, you know, women in sport, a lot of people want to just be considered an athlete, and we hear a lot about, you know, different women achieving different things, and whether it's from an athlete perspective or whether it's in broadcasting or media. How do you think we can move away from that?
I think we're I personally am lucky in my sport, in horse racing. As a jockey, you know, it is at a stage now where it's completely equal. If you're good enough and you put in the work, you know, male or female, that's kind of gone out the window now, that issue. You know, achievements of Nina Carby and Katie Walsh in recent times, you know, really got rid of that. And, you know, Holly Doyle over in England is doing incredible as well. So, look, how do you get rid of it? I don't know. I think you just keep going forward and you keep, you know, producing the results, and that's all that one can do.
Did you ever find it intimidating racing against boys or men, or you grew up around it and didn't notice?
Yeah, I didn't notice. Like from day one when I went into pony camp, you know, there isn't a divide, I suppose. You know, it's you ride horses and you're all riders, so there was never an issue from day one, so that never carried through for me.
You spend a lot of time kind of engaging with your young fans, which is, you know, something that obviously really means a lot to them. Why is it important to you?
I think, you know, I remember when I was a kid, I used to love getting posts. Like, it was just a really fun thing to get. So, like, if a kid, you know, takes the time out to write a letter, like, I'll try my best to get back to it. You know, it might take a few weeks, but I do get back to all of them, because I think it's you know, it's a pretty cool thing to get a letter back from someone when you've gone to the effort of writing it. And you know, it's fantastic for our industry, I suppose, to have so many young people now interested in it. And you know, you're just trying to encourage that, and, like, you know, they're usually saying well done, so, you know, you're just writing back to say thanks.
Yeah, and nice letters to receive, and certainly from their side of things, like, as a role model for them, they'd be thrilled to receive something back for you. And you know, not a lot of people take that time to do it, so, you know, credit where credit is due on your side to put that effort in as well. Yeah,
look, it's you know, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who are getting too many letters to reply to, but mine are a manageable number to send replies to, so yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Drive and passion has, you know, gotten you to where you are at the moment, so how do you stay motivated when you're doing so well?
Mainly because racing pulls you back down to earth straight away. You know, you ride an Aintree, we'll say, and, you know, a few days later you're back in Ireland. You know, I think we were racing in Ballinrobe maybe on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and, you know, you're straight back in at it again. You're straight back to not winning. You know, that's just part of what we do. I suppose we, as jockeys, we lose a lot more than we win. So you're always brought back down to earth in this sport, and yeah, you're well used to feeling that.
With Honeysuckle, it's been some relationship. When it comes to a jockey's success, in your opinion, is it down to the talent of the jockey or finding a good relationship with a horse?
To be honest, it's down to the horse. You know, it's essentially, as a jockey, you're trying to get on the best horses. You know, the best horse wins the race, you know, 95% of the time, and I'm very lucky that I get to ride some of the best horses in the country at the moment. But there's a lot of extremely talented jockeys who just aren't on the right horses, and that's what it comes down to, really. You know, as a jockey, you can make tactical decisions in a race that may change the outcome, but a lot of the time the best horse will win the race.
When you were younger, you were interested in being a vet and kind of looking at amateur racing, but when in your journey did you just decide to commit fully to horse racing?
Yeah, so I always wanted to be a vet going through school. Academically, that was never going to be a possibility. My leaving cert was a long shot off anything close to getting into veterinary. So I studied science and went down a kind of a different path. But I always wanted to ride and be a jockey alongside that. So I rode as an amateur all through my college years. And when I finished college, I was very lucky. I got the opportunity to to turn conditional, as it's called, or professional, and to give that a go. And look, it worked out, and I'm very glad I did that. I was very lucky that I had a yard to support me in doing that. So yeah, look, I think I just got a bit of a lucky break.
When you were making that decision, did it feel like a risky decision, or you always felt you could go back and do something else if it didn't go the way that everybody hopes, I suppose?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I suppose I was at a kind of a crossroads. Like, I'd finally finished college. I changed courses and failed exams and whatnot. So I was 25 when I'd finally finished college, and I was at a crossroads now, and it was kind of time to either get a real job or, you know, to do something else. I couldn't really, my riding as an amateur wasn't a career, we'll say. So in some ways I felt I had nothing to lose, because you know, it was a risk worth taking, I suppose. You know, if it didn't work out, I could always, you know, try it for 6 months, and if it wasn't working out, I could still, you know, take back my amateur license. But luckily that never happened.
The adrenaline while you're racing must be something else. Can you describe the feeling, or even the feeling at the Grand National last year?
Yeah, it's a fantastic feeling. Like, when you're riding and, you know, the horse is in a rhythm under you, like, it's like, I don't know, trying to explain to people who've never ridden, like, if you've ever been skiing and, you know, you're going down a slope that you're comfortable at going down, it's just a lovely feeling. Like, that's what it's like riding horses. It's just a really enjoyable thing to do. And then when things are getting competitive, like, it's just a great adrenaline buzz. It's something that you just can't find anywhere else. So I've been told by all the retired jockeys out there. But yeah, it's a fantastic sport to be involved in, and yeah, I feel very lucky.
You recently said that you are looking to defend the title.
Yeah, look, obviously everyone wants to try and win the Grand National again. I'm very lucky to say I, you know, won it last year, and everyone lining up down at the start will be trying to do the same thing. So you know, there's so many variables in a race like that. There's so many things that can go wrong, and yeah, look, I'll be down there hopefully at the start like everyone else, and giving it our best shot again.
In terms of your goals for the future, you know, you've achieved a lot thus far. What is on the list, and what would be the pinnacle for you?
Yeah, so I actually don't really set myself any major goals. It's just never something I've done, because racing can change so much, and there are so many different things at play. So I just try and take it kind of week by week, or even day by day. Try and go racing. I'll be racing tomorrow. It's Saturday, and you know, you go racing tomorrow and just ride as many winners as you can. And yeah, I just take it day by day. I've never looked too far into the future, because, you know, if you do that, racing has a way of kind of upscuttling your plans.
Thanks a million for taking the time to chat to us, Rachael. Congratulations again on being the HerSport Athlete of the Year.
Thank you so much.
Campana tro taki go fada lom an nach le play in a méid tá bantamach ag sport na man in éidir an dulchan cín atá dinta agus tar an nói an méid atá fós le dinne. Irish women are achieving so much at home and on an international stage at an elite level. Young boys and girls want to be exactly like our female sporting heroes. There's no doubt that female athletes are getting much more recognition than before, but we still have a long road ahead to reach equality and to get the same recognition as our male counterparts. And to talk about this and much more, I'm delighted to be joined by Rob, Lindsay and Cliona. Lindsay, we'll come to you first. You've done it all, you've seen it all, you've represented your country at soccer, basketball, rugby, of course, and you played football with Dublin as well. So take us back. Were you always a sport nut?
Probably, actually, just the energy and just feeling alive, and the group of people on the same goal, with the same interests, with the same sport. Like being in Croker on a field with Dublin fans. Thank you for us beating Cork tonight. I'll put that in. I don't know how we do against Mayo, but you know, to feel that buzz and the singing, and, you know, walk along the streets of Dublin in blue, you know, sky blue and navy jerseys is just a buzz. But I think it feeds back maybe to my aunt and my grandfather on my mum's side. mad Leeds United supporters, mad Liverpool supporters. And I remember in 1990, you know, when, you know, Packy Bonner saved the penalty and Dave O'Leary scored, and everyone came out of their house and you're in this little green and everyone's celebrating, you know, you know, little island of Ireland doing something great on a world stage. And I think that was the bug that bit me, and it's infectious. And I think I've had the privilege of experiencing that all along as a fan, and especially as a player and an athlete. And to see women's sport evolve and to start to see that now, the crowds building and everyone else getting the bug and the infection that brings all the values to your sport is just, it's inspiring and it's electrifying, and it's, yeah, we're in a good place.
And that's why we all love it.
Yep.
Who were your sporting heroes growing up? Did you have any female role models?
Not too many, if I'm honest. Obviously, the great Sonia O'Sullivan through Olympics. You know, my grandfather, who I just mentioned, was into athletics. He was into tennis as well. He used to come to our house, mind us, on the summers we were off. And probably Martina Navratilova was one. Even though I wasn't necessarily into tennis, I loved her fight. I loved how she was there. She didn't take any crap, really. I loved her headband. I loved her aggression. I loved how she was kind of the female John McEnroe, and I shouldn't be comparing her to a male, but because he was so up on a world stage for his personality and his aggression and what he brought to the tennis world, and there she was doing the same. And I loved that she just didn't take any crap, really, regardless of her gender. And I think I just love that about her. Obviously, Sonia is our golden star who you know, set Irish sport to light, one of many great athletes at the time. But probably, you know, as I mentioned, Liverpool fan, Steve McMenamin, Robbie Fowler, Bruce Grovelar, Razor Ruddock, you know, all these male role models. And I didn't see them as anything different until I became an athlete in my own right, and sort of seeing the disparity and, I suppose, the inequality. I just seen them as players I wanted to aspire to. But not until I got on the bottom of that ladder did I see the difference, and that I wasn't ever going to be given that pathway to be a professional footballer. But I loved what I seen. I loved the goal celebration. I'm sure I've been called an absolute idiot some of the times that I tried to emulate these when I scored goals, or because you just loved the sport and you loved achieving, and I love winning. I love winning, and that's what you wanted to do. So it's sad for me to sit here and say, but it's also, we see the spread of variety of female names and athletes in different sports tonight being, you know, honoured as they should be, and I think that's the good place that we're in. So I've mentioned too that I had grown up, but you know, the spread of athletes here tonight that have been absolutely setting the world of Irish sport to light is comforting. And
you're definitely amongst those role models, Lindsay, without a doubt. You're one of the most talented athletes this country has ever had and ever seen. But for you, playing a variety of sports growing up, was that important to you, and do you think you benefited from playing a variety of sports?
Absolutely. I think probably one of the main facts of that is, you know, any athlete that plays a variety of sport have a better chance to stay in sport as they grow up along. So especially as we talk about the dropout rate for female sports, I think the more that female athletes play a variety of sports, the better chance they have in bringing it into their adult years, which is a huge positive. I think for me, it kind of, I got to meet amazing people. I got to play an amazing sport. I got opportunity to play in Croke Park, and I got opportunity to play in Twickenham. I got to actually experience the world of sport, you know, thoroughly.
You were greedy for it. You wanted it all.
I was absolutely, and I'm still greedy. If you asked me to go back there, I'd be gone. Because that's just the draw of it. You know, you always want to challenge yourself. And I suppose, you know, I'm flattered by the fact that you'd say I'm one of the talented, but to me, I'm just a sports fanatic who got lucky and got opportunity that I took, and I'm absolutely blessed with all the opportunities that I got. And to look back on it is, I can't believe it myself. And, you know, it's only when you retire and you look back, and the jerseys I've worn, the coaches I've had experience, the absolute amazing people that I've made lifelong friendships with, the values that we kind of sometimes are brandished around flippantly. It's not until you step away and you actually bring them into your own personal life that you realise the values a lot more definitively. And yeah, I think I'm a very, very privileged person as I sit in front of you, all thanks to the world of sport and all the people I've met. And I spoke to Olivia O'Toole there just before we come on stage, and I remember seeing Olivia in awe on the telly playing for Ireland and not getting the accolade she deserved at the time. And to see her here tonight, and probably, though when I was smaller, she definitely was one of the role models I had while I was playing on the same pitches, or, you know, wishing she was on my team.
Because you played with so many different communities and so many different organisations from a very young age, comparing the supports that were in place and I suppose the barriers that were there, did they vary? Was there one sport in particular that you felt that there was a clearer pathway?
I suppose, you know, we're probably gone back. I started basketball, say, when I was 13. And for example, Mark Ingle was my coach, who still coaches DCU Mercy now. And I remember, like, the big pinnacle time for Irish basketball is the Cup, which is January. And we don't get a lot of media coverage. We do now, but at the time we didn't get media coverage until it was January. And obviously Rob has actually been involved. We found out through Neptune Basketball, which is huge down in Cork. And so you took that time, and it was just, you loved that time of year. But I remember getting a call from a journalist, and I kind of said to Mark, I can't take this call. Like, what am I going to talk to the chap about? And he said, Lindsay, you have to remember that A, you're representing the sport of basketball, and B, you're representing your club and the female side of that sport. And you have to take opportunity while it's coming, because it doesn't come, you know, often enough. And, you know, so we took that, and I've probably still stuck to that mantra all the way along, and you probably get more, you know, confident in it, and, you know, you're interested in it and where you want female sport to go along, so you take the opportunity when it's coming. But basketball probably didn't have an awful lot. You know, we were very lucky to be under the umbrella of DCU, but there's other clubs who would have really struggled with hall time, getting a coach, getting players. So I suppose looking back in the 3-4 sports that I played, probably soccer's in a really good space with grassroots. I think GAA has been huge in the investment of Lidl, and I know without the money, without the sponsors, without the investment, without getting good coaches, without the visibility of role models, without seeing these amazing athletes on All Ireland Day and being on the telly, you can't have that investment from grassroots up, because you just don't have the pool of players being attracted. So it's all cyclical how these all affect one another. So I think in the best place possible, it's probably GAA, and we're obviously working on the rugby side of things to probably from the top down, trying to get the pool of players increased. I think the barrier probably for women's rugby is because it's still probably culturally, it's very much seen as a masculine sport, and we're obviously trying to eliminate those barriers. It's very physical. We're obviously trying to get parents and even the players themselves on board to understand that it's a really technical and very safe sport. But that's probably the little bit of a barrier that we're kind of trying to break. And it's in its evolution, women's sport is slightly more behind, say, than ladies football, for example, or camogie. So I think in the best possible light, I'd say GAA is probably in the best, from my experience and what I see outside looking in, we're probably looking at GAA being in a good spot. But yeah, so... And basketball's had a hard hit really with the pandemic over the last 2 years. You know, we had the Michael Jordan, what were we saying, Cliona, was the name of it?
Oh, the dance.
The Last Dance, which brought me way back to the, you know, late 1990s, early 2000s.
Everyone was in the Nike Air Max.
Listen, I was like, I had them runners, I had that jersey, and it brought so much nostalgia, but it actually... Basketball should have fed off that and thrived, and then the pandemic hit, and really indoor sports have been hugely. But we're back up and running, and hopefully it'll kick on from here. But I think all the sports are in a good place, but just at different levels in the revolution.
Yeah, we'll come back to rugby in a while, but I want to come to you now, Rob Ispania, who is in the Mraw. You're here tonight to give the male perspective for you. Don't get out of line here now, Rob. Your perspective growing up. I read that you were told that you were too small, was it, to play Gaelic games. That was one challenge that you had. But did you find that there were barriers in your way to achieve what you have achieved on your sporting journey?
Yeah, 100%. There was barriers in the sense where I came from. You know, like I came from a family where I was expected to, and I was following that path, do an apprenticeship. When I was 16, my dad was a plasterer. All my family were plasterers and builders. So just that socio-demographic area where I came from, athletics and doing sport wasn't on the radar at all. And I was away doing an apprenticeship with my dad, and this can cross over with males and females. And I took a big growth spurt. I developed really late at 17 and went up and ran a cross-country race. And a Christian brother turned around to me and he said, "You're scholarship material." And just on that advice or that encouragement, I left the apprenticeship I was doing. I went back to school and did my leaving cert and went to the North Man for a year. But I couldn't believe, and then the environment I got into was other lads who were really ambitious, wanted to go, and it took me away from where I grew up, and I was exposed to fellas who were really, really good athletes, and I was like, I'm the same as them, good guys, like, and I ended up getting offered a running scholarship to America, but I qualified for the European Junior Championships race walking, and I went over there, and it just opened up my eyes again, and I think for 20 years that kept going. Every opportunity was always learning, always trying to get better. But my brother's a plasterer now, and my sister works in a deli in Centra, so sport gave me such a brilliant life. And but when you bring it back to women's sport as well, I think the opportunities now, they're massive for women in sport, Like when I grew up, like there was no way my sisters were going to do sport. It was never on the radar, And even when I look at my wife Marion, like her brother played with Ireland growing up, her dad played for Ireland underage. Her mum had trials for Ireland, and when they got married, it was like, no, you're finished now playing football, your place is in the home. And Marion's brother John, who was the footballer, was the golden boy. And I knew from athletics, because there's really no inequality in athletics, like Marion was
I was just going to
brilliant.
say, athletics is different.
It's different, it is different. And Mar would be out in the club with the lads, and she'd be doing the circuits with us, and then I ended up doing all of the gym stuff for her because I was mad about her, like, I mean? He was just trying to motivated me, like. But I could see just the advice and what she was exposed to, and her being around me, that we bounced off each other and we grew. But it was her, she was the real talent in the house, And
Your
the
brother
brother
would be delighted to hear that.
No, it's the truth. He didn't, and the ego was so big for a footballer playing with Ireland underage and never came through and developed. Whereas when Mar got her opportunities, then I remember being away at the World Championships in 2007 and seeing the other 400-metre girls. I was like, came home and I was like, you're definitely as good as them, if not better, 100%. And then she came over to the Olympics and watched me. And I think it's very important, the environment that you're put into. And she's seen the girls then in the flesh. I think it's really important to see the athletes visibly see. And she was like, I'm bigger than some of them and I'm stronger, I can be as fast. And then they became real and they weren't somebody in a magazine or on the telly. And then she made a massive jump. I got her, like, Stuart Hogg started coaching her from Scotland. And then Mar started going, like, indoors, outdoors, Olympic Games, World Championships. And then it was like, after a while, the allure that I had for her, like, was like, oh no, Robin, you're just normal, you just work really hard. Do you know what I mean?
From being a father now of 3 girls and a boy, do you see the difference of how they're treated and the barriers that they face because they're all involved in sport?
Yeah, definitely I see with gymnastics that Regan and Tara are in, that's equal. The training's unbelievable, it's savage, like, and the minute they recognise talent, they do move you up levels and they put you into tougher levels. And like Regan's only 8, she turned 8 the other week. And we were laughing about it earlier, like obviously Cahill went to AC Milan the other week and I threw up a tweet and it hit over 1 million impressions. Regan trains harder than him and she's 8. Mm-hmm. So perception, no, she does, she genuinely does, and she's really, really good. Yeah. So, and it's back to getting that promotion and the investment and given the opportunities. But I definitely think now, I've seen the football on the ground because my daughter Megan played with Ireland last year and she played with Cork City's first team last week. And the reality from what I've seen the last 10 years is that the men do have the best coaches, they do get the better opportunities, they do get the better pitches, and that there's a lower level of expectation with the training, but it will get better. I think it is going to get better. I think with the huge numbers now, and I even see it in the girls' GA, it's really good, I think it's better than where Megan was 10 years ago with Regan and Tara now. It's becoming more normalised that the girls are there and it's not, girls go out and run around and have a bit of fun. Mm-hmm. But I think we need to challenge them as well and put barriers and carrots there and not get caught up in the levels. It's like going, the enjoyment in sport, it has to be fun, it has to be social, but I think the fun part is when you're developing and you're getting better. And like even Regan playing camogie this morning, it was like going, I said, it doesn't matter who won, you're only learning the skills and you're after getting so much better in the last few weeks. I says you're after getting, and if you concentrate on just the development of the technique, and it doesn't matter if it's rugby or if it's race walking or if it's athletics, if you're learning the skills and the technique, it just becomes innate and natural then. But we're our culture here compared to Europe, we're so obsessed and parochial. It's the GA, hating our parishes, and it's definitely and because in Europe, being away training in Europe, you do your training and it's one part of your life, and the social side and family side is different. And it's like going, you do your work and then you get the reward for your work. Whereas we're all encompassing with it, like, you know, it's like, going, if I don't do well at sport, I'm a bad person, you know, I'm depressed for a month, and I'm not going out if we lose, you know, and I think we've all gone through that. I've gone through it. So I remember getting disqualified in the Olympics in Athens, and, you know, being down in my sister's mobile home in Youghal, and I'd go for 2 pints over in the hotel, really independent, to go to the beach crying, like, do you know what I mean?
I'd be the same. Don't come near me if we lost a final, you know, and... You're right, and I think the thing about the skill level, we spoke about this before we come on, is that'll have a knock-on effect, I think, with the dropout rate and the confidence, because the skill level, it'll just be second nature. Like, we wouldn't compromise on gender in school, so why do we compromise in the transition of, or the transference of skill at sport? And we shouldn't, and that really pisses me off, excuse the language, because you have to challenge, regardless of gender. Kids want to be challenged on their own personal level. And that brings in then the emotional intelligence of the coach to be able to identify when to push Rob and maybe be a little bit softer.
Liz, if you look at other international sports, women's sports, and they're brilliant, like I remember training in centres in Poland, like Olympic training centres, and you'd see the rugby girls, big strong girls, you know, pull your arms off. You know, you see the little gymnasts. You see all of the different body types. So there's sports out there for everyone.
Absolutely.
And like, I call my small ones up there, and they see no inequality in their head. Like they think, you know, they're as good as boys.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And it's all about, as you were saying, exposure and visibility and normalising
it.
Absolutely.
And not pushing, normalising it. And when it's there, like, I can't imagine, like, that Regan would think. Like, I know she doesn't, because she thinks Marion's way better than me, and she just thinks I'm getting old and fat now and mocking me. Can't even do cartwheels or roly-polies. I'm useless, like, you know. And so, yeah, it definitely needs to normalise women being well, and it is normal.
I have the opposite, actually, because obviously you've 4 children, but you have 3 daughters. I have a son who actually said, we were passing the Aviva, and he said, "Oh, Mama, what stadium is that?" And I said, "Actually, that's the Aviva." And he said, "What sport do they play?" And I said, "Rugby." And he said, "What team plays there?" And I said, "Ireland." And he said, "I've never been there to see." And I was like, "No, actually, you haven't." And he said, "Who won't let you play there? I want to pume them." And I was like, "Okay, I'll bring you to see them," because pume them like he wants to pume them. I didn't teach him that. He didn't get that.
It's a Dublin thing anyway.
It is a Dublin thing. But he asked all the questions for a 6-year-old, and he could not understand why
because it's all he's
I
seen.
play for Ireland and I'm not playing in the Irish stadium. And I said, "You know what, I might bring you along to have a conversation with
Get him
you
to
people."
pume at the highest level.
100%. He said to me in the car, "I'll pume at the highest level." Yeah, come on to this committee meeting. But he said to me, "I want to play," just randomly in the car last week. He said, "Mama, I want to play rugby because you play rugby." And he was only about 2 or 3, and we were watching Leinster-Munster, and he said, "Oh, you're on the telly." He just couldn't, he was too small to get the concept that I wasn't on the telly, it was the boys. But the fact that he could say he didn't see anything, he just seen rugby, I play rugby, that's it. So I probably have the positive side of the next generation with your kids and our kids, that they won't see any difference. They will value sport for what's in front of them, regardless of anything. And that's a lovely.
And it's also just, you know, when I have an 11-year-old daughter, and we were watching a match the other night, and they were all men on the studio floor as pundits. And she looked at me and she said, "What's going on there? Where are the women?" Because she has now started to see that generally you'll have a female pundit along with male pundits, and now it looks not normal. So it's about normalising that you always have men and women talking about sport, rather than it always just being men talking about sport.
And when it comes to the role of the media, Cliona, we have come a long way, but when you look at the startling statistic that only 6% of sports media coverage goes to women, why is that? Why are men still spearheading that?
And like, that was the 2020 figure, that it was 6% in Ireland, and it's 4% worldwide is the UNESCO figure from 2018. And, you know, you'd hope that figure is much more after the incredible performances of Irish sports stars over the past year. But the reality is that it wouldn't be a hell of a lot more. And the worldwide, really the figures haven't changed since the 1980s. So, like, it is really, really slow progress. So there needs to be some escalation on that. And we need need to compel media organisations. And also, we're talking, Lindsay spoke about the sports ecosystem and the federations and brands, and all of us have a part to play. And, budget is a huge part of it, and where is the money going? But decision making is every bit as crucial as that. And, within the media, you have, the majority of people who get into the media have gotten in because they know about men's sport, and they are knowledgeable, and also their experience and their is all men's sport, and the contacts that they have built up is around men's sport. Generally team sports as well in this country, which is another reason why we have, like in other countries, in Sweden and a lot of the Scandinavian countries, the figures are much, much higher, but they would have far more focus on individual sports, which are, as Rob was saying, far more equal as well. But I think, just from my experience of working in the media, but also being chair of the European Broadcasting Union Women in Sport Expert Group, there's 3 key areas in it. And one is to prioritise it, and we have to compel media to prioritise it. And once you do, then the data is really critical. And we don't have enough data on how media organisations are doing. And once you start to gather the data, for example, we started to gather data in RTE, and I presumed that horse racing would be in and around 33%. But actually, when our exec producer, Ryan McCann, started to count women presence in our horse racing coverage, it was actually only between 8 and 9%. So it's really important to have the data, and then you can start to address the data. And the third part is partnerships and collaboration, because actually the federations and brands and media do actually want to progress it and do want to cover more women's sports, but the systems and structures are kind of set up with bias in it, and it is really hard to try and change that, and proper systems and strategies. But real prioritisation from leadership down is really critical to actually move it forward, and there's great opportunities for organisations who do that.
From leadership down, but from the grassroots up is where it needs to start as well. And you're involved at committee level with your own club. Practically, what have ye done to bring about equality?
So I went in as chair of an Equality, Diversity and Inclusion committee back in 2020. And so having a position on the executive committee of a GAA club speaking about issues for women like needing toilets, like periods, and bringing those discussions onto the committee room table, it's really critically important for equality and for to talk about the fact that, we've got to cater for everybody here, and then that turns into facilities, and it's like, well, what facilities do we have then that can actually properly cater for girls as well? So really there needs to be that at every committee room table. So what we did as well was gender equality targets, and they're led very strongly by our chair, Joe Davitt, and we set targets on ourselves across participation, coaching, and our committee as well. And that was 2 years ago, and we are now at 60-40 in our committee, which I actually thought would be way harder to do, but everybody bought into it. And then coaching is the most challenging, but we're up to 29% in coaches, and we have another year to go, and there's a huge push by lead coaches to get it, because once you have targets, everybody aligns and pushes towards it. And then the third part of it was the exec committee, and when we went out and spoke to women and said, well, we really would encourage you, and we have got these gender equality targets, well then women started to put their hand up and realise, well, we're welcome here actually, and they do actually want us to contribute. So I think targets and actually measurement are hugely important in progressing and escalating the change that has been far too slow to move forward.
Does the language around how women's sport is covered need to change as well? I know we need to distinguish, but we have ladies football, we have women's sport, but should it be, here's the soccer, and we give the results from male and female at the same time? Or how do you address that?
Yeah, absolutely. Language is hugely important because it propagates stereotypes and continues with bias within society, and the media has a huge responsibility in that regard. And so, quantitative is adding up the data, which is really important, but also then looking at how you're speaking about women's sport. And there was a really good study done by Cambridge University back in 2016 off the back of the Olympics, and what they found was there was more of a focus on aesthetic rather than athleticism for women than there was for male athletes. And also there was, they credited a lot male coaches for female achievement. And then words that were used for women's sport were like strive and compete and participate versus dominate and mastermind for men's sport. So it was really interesting to see the difference in how women's sport was being portrayed versus men's sport. And that continues the negative and the bias that is there that makes women's sports lesser. And gender marking is another aspect of that, calling it the women's national team versus the national team, and hugely important to cut that out of our language, because it is that men's sport is the norm. And likewise, you've seen federations actually recently with the rugby and soccer as well, aligning it with men's World Cup and women's World Cup, and that's hugely important and progressive. But the media has a huge responsibility, and education and awareness, and calling it out when you see it, but creating the environment where calling it out is allowed and actually really wanted as well is hugely important.
It actually has, that has an impact on I found, for me as an athlete, because I probably only got rid of the female athlete from saying, introducing myself, I'm Lindsay Peat, whatever, I'm a rugby player, I'm a female athlete, about maybe, if it is even 2 years ago. So the language we use actually has an impact, I feel, well, it certainly did for me, on how I valued myself as an athlete in the overall sporting world, and that's not good enough, because I labelled myself inferior to those of the male sporting world in a similar position. And that's why I try and tell the younger athletes that you're always an athlete, you are a rugby player, you are a footballer. Don't put any label in front of that, because then that makes us less. And that's not what we're here for, we're not less. I think actually, speaking of federation, I'm more than sure the French Federation have dropped their, they call it 7s and 15s now, but they don't call it men's and women's. So the French Rugby Federation have dropped that. And I think that's probably a question I have for you, if you don't mind. Do you feel the onus is on the say, unions to promote the inequality, or do you think it's on the clubs? Like, so you obviously set targets for your club. Do you think you just took that upon yourself, or do you think that should be the hierarchy telling the clubs to set these minimum targets? Do you think that would help speed up?
Well, yeah, I think that there's a huge, I suppose, in terms of GAA, and there's a huge amount of discussion around it, and the GPA is pushing now for a merger, and I think that it's absolutely, our national games should be equal, and they should come together, but it needs to come together on an absolute level footing. And I do think it's going to be really challenging, because change is not easy. Like, we all want to retain the status quo, and this is a huge part of why we are where we are still decades later with small percentage rises, because it's so you will get a lot of fear when change is around in any walk of in any business, but what's hugely important is that vulnerability, to say that, like particularly in media, for the boss to say, I don't really know a whole lot about women's sport, I need you to help me, and because the majority of us don't know an awful lot about women's sports, how could we? Because it's been invisible and so by society seen as lesser value for far too long. So we need to show our vulnerability and ask questions, and that's how we'll all learn. But it also pushes people into being able to be honest and be able to ask the questions and to be able to propose new ways of doing things as well. It's a huge part of how change might work, and it's a huge reason why change doesn't work. And a big part of it as well is people in sport in general, their competences around men's sport, and they have a fear that they're going to become irrelevant as well. And they might not vocalize that because they mightn't even realize it themselves when they're pushing against it. But that's where a trusting environment is hugely important to try and create that change.
because it feels like women's sport and female athletes need to achieve above and beyond to get recognition. They always have to achieve at the highest level. We need to get to a point where everyday sport is being covered, the small stories, the big stories, that it's not just the amazing stories, because that's all we're seeing at the moment. We're running out of time, but I would sit here all night listening to the three of you, but I'll come to you individually one by one and about what's next. What do you want to see change? Where are we going from here now, Rob?
I definitely feel, with the numbers and the participation numbers gone so high, let's give it a proper competitive pathway for the girls when they go, that they are treated like the boys and that they do have the same opportunities, but let's bring the level up as well, the way they're coached, and let them know that they can be great. And I really think the mentality, and I see it on the ground in the kids, like the teenagers, the boys are at a really higher level in general, and then there's the small number of girls who excel are absolutely brilliant, but we need to get more of them up to that level, and we need the coaches there. They need to believe that they can, and that's half of the battle, that there's no excuses why they can't be fit, strong, fast. Because obviously at the high level, we have brilliant. There's probably no difference to my event in race walking. The numbers at the top, like I'd walk a marathon in under 3 hours, but then I could have a guy who's third in the nationals and he's full 1 hour behind me. And I suppose in us, what you want to bring the depth and the level up and the higher level and give them a pathway. And when you do have the talented sports people, that they'll go on to academies, they want to represent Cork, or they go on to internationals, and that there's pathways that they can go to England or Europe or America, you know, that there is that pathway there, and the coaches are smart enough as well to hand them on and know what their role is, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose it's how do we go about doing it, Lindsay?
I think I'd try to appeal to everybody who's in the sporting world to get people outside of it in. I think we need to look at ourselves and ask, what can you actually physically do to action change? I think we're fabulously gifted at talking about, wanting to change, but until we action it, we won't see any change. So if you make one promise to go to a women's sporting event of a different, if Rob's into athletics, then he might come to a rugby match. I might go to a soccer match or a hockey match. I've never been to, because it'll open up my eyes to questions. And
that happened to me. Imagine in sport, and I went to a camogie game a few years ago, a senior game in Blackmore, and I'm going, oh man, I'm so ignorant. Like, I never realised that.
But you stood up and you said that.
And I felt really wise with Marion, like, I was like, I felt a small bit ashamed, like.
But all of us
and it's
have a role
for me
to
going
play.
through it now with my kids.
All of us have a role to play.
You know?
And if I was to take, my rugby club is very good, but if I was to ask every club of every sport in Ireland to look at your female side of things and be honest and transparent and say, I want to action change within this club, but I don't know how to do it. What resources can I get involved to make that change? And even if it's just a 1 small % this year, it'll be 2% next year, and we can kick on, and we can again target set. We review. If you don't review, you don't know what's going wrong, and then you can set new targets. It's exactly like being an athlete. We play a match, we review, we know what we did right, we know what we did wrong, we target set for the next one, and we hope to win.
There has to be a trust then as well to move forward.
100%.
It can't be a divide. It has to be.
No, everyone has to be pulling in the same direction, and I think for a lot of things, grassroots to elite level, everyone has to be pulling in the same direction and communicating, knowing what the left hand, telling the right hand what it's doing,
And strong leadership. Really strong leadership.
And have we far to go, Cliona, to reach that level of equality?
We're a very progressive nation. We're 7th in the Gender Equality Index. We're up there with the Scandinavian countries. So it's absolutely achievable. But it takes real commitment, and it takes every single day prioritising it. And that's what, over in Sweden, in SVT, in 2015, they were at around 20%, and they decided that they wanted to be 50%. And in 2020, they were 48 to 50%, and they have maintained that sense. But what the head of sport over there would say is, every single day in every editorial meeting it's raised. It's important. And she said, any day that it isn't, it can drift back. So it needs to be up there in priority, but data is absolutely critical, and we need to have more data to understand where we are. But I absolutely agree with what Lindsay's saying as well around, all of us can actually create change in everything that we're doing. We can get involved with women's sport. Every click on the website tells an editor that you're interested in women's sport, so do it, you know. And like you only have so much time in the day. Change. Like I always follow the men's GAA team in Cork, always the Gaelic football team, and I changed and I started to follow the women's, the ladies football team for Cork, and the camogie team, and the women's rugby team, and the women's soccer team, because you only have so much time. But it was like I made an absolute change that I was brought up following men's sport, and that's why I'm so knowledgeable on men's
Davy
sport.
Fitz going to the Cork camogie,
Yeah.
I think that's going to add a bit of glamour.
That's huge.
I
And if
think-
It
any-
is, and men in particular can be huge advocates for women's sport and have so much power as well to be able to change. You
It's
know?
I
about
also
flicking
get-
that switch.
Yeah, yeah.
Flicking that switch.
You should
And
get HerSport.ie should sponsor Rashida Adeleke and call out 8 intercounty footballers and get her to race them over any distance as well. And it'd be hugely
100%.
powerful, like, do you know what I mean? Brilliant.
That's a brilliant note to finish on. Muachas le Cliona le Lindsay agus le Rob. Bulabus more meets a club.
We're delighted to have our first ever Hall of Fame award this year, sponsored by Club Force. It's something that we've wanted to do for a long time, and we're delighted to have it this year in the 2021 HerSport Awards. Irish sport has had some amazing pioneers, women who have broken barriers and changed the game for generations to come. Our inaugural inductee to the HerSport Hall of Fame has no idea that this is coming. 3-time International Player of the Year, she is renowned for her unpredictability, her eye for the goal and her magical left foot. One of Ireland's greatest ever talents.
This is Katie McCabe. I just wanted to say a massive congratulations to Olivia O'Toole for becoming the first inductee to the HerSport Hall of Fame. What can I say about Olivia O'Toole? She's an absolute legend in Irish football and is literally the best goal scorer we've ever had. And still, to this day, she's doing everything she can and is so passionate to promote women's sport. So best of luck, Livy. Congratulations and see you soon.
Hi Livy, massive congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame. Well deserved. You didn't get half enough credit when you were playing, so I'm glad you're getting all these accolades and awards now. You're a legend and an inspiration of mine when I first came into the national team, so yeah, have a great night and massive congratulations again.
Hello Livy, how you doing? Congratulations on receiving the Hall of Fame award tonight. It's a great honour, one which you absolutely deserve. I know over the years it's been a privilege watching you, watched you many times at club level, international level. I always came away feeling so much better after the game, such as your talents. Always felt better from the experience. You know, you're an unbelievable talent, your magical left foot, greedy eye for scoring goals. I remember the volleys, the chips, the tap-ins, so many different attributes you had in scoring goals. Dribbles as well, most outrageous angles you try chances from. But most of all, I think you're a free-spirited dove, and that's for sure, who have all the skills to be a superb goal scorer. Maybe the best goal scorer Ireland's ever had. There's no doubt about that. You're certainly looking at winning there. Over the years, you've also been an inspiration to so many people, including young internationals, old internationals, friends, neighbours, all that sort of stuff around your own area. Certainly providing time and your expertise in the coaching. It's all this and so much more that makes me say that, Olivia, you're fully deserving of this award tonight. You're a legend, and congratulations.
Livy, big congratulations this evening on your Hall of Fame award. Absolutely well deserved. We had fantastic times on the national team together, and especially me having to room with you for 15 years. Some memories, some great stories. I think one of the best is always making your breakfast. Now, tell the truth, always making your breakfast. I know you weren't a morning person or never liked your breakfast, but your tea and your toast with your sneaky little bit of bacon was always put in it, and it was brought up to you. Listen, well done. Enjoy the evening. Hello to everyone there, and I hope to catch up soon.
Congrats, Olivia, for getting into the HerSport Hall of Fame. I don't know what to say. You're one of my idols growing up and someone I always looked up to, and a true Irish legend.
Yeah, just massive congrats, Olivia. You, just what Anya said, just an absolute legend. Even when I used to play against you, you're a striker, I'm a defender, you even still used to help me out on the pitch, and that's how much you just cared for the development of players and Irish players, so this is so well deserved.
Congrats again.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is of course Olivia O'Toole. 2-time League of Ireland winning manager and Waterford United coach Eamonn Murray of Club Force will present Olivia with her award.
Chomhortachas mór míteach le Olivia O'Toole an chéad duine le háit amháin amach sa HerSport Hall of Fame. Olivia, huge congratulations. It's an honour to have you here with us tonight. You have done it all. You've made a huge contribution to football in Ireland. You broke down barriers, overcame challenges all through your career. Where did it all start for you? Was it kicking football on the streets of Dublin, or were you always a sporty kid growing up?
Obviously, it was kicking the football on the streets of Dublin. I grew up in Charlotte Street, and we used to. It's in a city, proper Dublin in a city, and we used to play pats, and we had 4 poles, but there was 8 of us playing. So if you had a pole and your ball hit the pole, then you were out. So when you grow up in the flats, you protect that pole. Do you know what I mean? That's your life. It's your life.
And when you were growing up, you got stuck in, obviously, with the lads from a very young age. Like Lindsay was saying earlier, she didn't see herself as being, different from the lads. She just wanted to play. Was it the same for you?
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't care whether I was playing with boys, men, women. I didn't care. As long as I had a ball in my feet and I was able to play. And as you said, I grew up from the age of 6 to 14 playing with boys, because there was no girls' teams then. And I absolutely loved it. It made me the player that I am today, that I was when I played, to be better than every single person that I played against. I wanted to be better. Doesn't matter if you were Ray Keane and I was Olivia O'Toole, I wanted to be better than him. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's like a passion inside you that you're the winner, and you don't care who's there, you just want to be the winner. But the street football made me the player I was, do you know what I mean? So.
And what was people's attitudes towards you? I'm sure you were running rings around the boys, but was it always positive, or did you get a lot of slack as well?
Obviously, you got a lot of slack, you're a girl, what you doing playing with bias? But I literally let it go in one ear and out the other, because I wanted to play, and whether they liked it or not, I played. My last game for boys was an under-16 game in Phoenix Park, and playing along, and I went up for a ball and I busted the boys' nose, start bleeding. But they found out I was a girl during the game, so they wanted me off the pitch, and I was like, I can't, you can't tell me to get off the pitch. My manager was the same. Hugo Richardson at the time, he was like, you can't tell a girl to go off the pitch, you're all supposed to be better than her. Do you know what and it wasn't, it was the opposite. And I actually apologised to the boy that I was at the hitting, because I hit him hard.
No better woman. Talk to us about what it was like. Did you have any female role models, or did you see a clear pathway for you to play and to represent Ireland at the highest level?
At the start, when I was playing 16, there was no girls' football at all. There was no women's, no under-15s, under-17s. There was nothing like that there is now. So I went to Drumcondra Ladies Seniors when I was 17, because I was told I couldn't play for the boys anymore. I actually changed the age of the girls playing for boys from, you could only play to 13 under-15s. So I changed it from 15 under-17s. Because there was no girls' teams, so the girls couldn't transit onto a girls' team at the age of 17 and 18. So when I went to Drumcondra Ladies, I think they were all 27, 28, 29, and when I went to them, I didn't know at the time there was girls' teams, and when I seen all these girls playing, I was gobsmacked. Yeah. And it was literally only up the road from me, and I didn't know. And when I started playing with Drumcondra Ladies, Tricia Ryan at the time, she says, "No, I know you're only a babby and blah, blah, blah." And so when I started playing with them, they were like, "Have you been playing all your life?" I says, "Obviously I've been playing all my life, but not with women." Because they obviously just started for a fresh women's league where I was playing with boys, and I just glided onto you know, the football. So you started off
When
there.
did the call up for the international team come, and were you surprised at the time? Did you expect it?
I didn't expect. I actually didn't know Ireland girls team existed at the time. I was 19. I was with Drumcondra ladies, and I was asked to go out to Santry to go for trials for Ireland. We went to Friday with 500 girls. It was whittled down to 200 Saturday, and then Sunday was whittled down to 100, and then Monday you got at the time you got a letter off the FAI because there was no phones then, or emails probably. And I got a letter to say you've been picked out 25 girls to go and play for Spain in the European Championship.
You were working at the time as well, were you, when you got the call up for Ireland? And what was that juggle like, trying to represent your country and trying to work at the same time?
Well, I'm actually still in the same job, so I am. That was like 22 years or so old. So, but my job was very good. The Dublin City Council was very good. When I got the call up and I went to the Irish set-up, and my job says, Olivia, like, we don't know what to do. And I was like, well, the government, if you're playing for your country, you can't take an annual leave. You just have to pay me. Like, but they were very good. He let me go. I played for my country, and when I come back, like, when I played my first game for Ireland, it was in Spain, against Spain in Seville. There was 7,000 people there. There was one Irish flag in the crowd. And I think it was the 84th, 85th minute, and I scored my first goal for Ireland. But it's the first time that Ireland ever won a European Championship away from home. But the feeling, what I remember of that game is standing for your national anthem. There's no feeling whatsoever. Standing for your national anthem and listening to that song and getting goosebumps all over. And then, when that happened, and then the match starts, and then you scored, and then you're like, what do I do now? I didn't know what to do when I scored. You know, so when I did, I didn't realise.
Have the signature.
Yeah, I realised I scored when all the girls came over, and Olivia, you don't know what you've done after the game. I was like, you don't know what you've done. You like, it's the first time Ireland ladies ever won a European game away, and I was like, yeah, it's grand.
Like, you were a trailblazer at the time. Did you realise the significance as you went on playing of what you were achieving, and that you were becoming this role model for all these young girls growing up?
Well, see, that word role model, never in my life thought I'd be a role model for anybody in my life. But listening to interviews from Niamh and Anya and Stephanie Roach, I'm their idol. So, and I didn't know this, and this is just me put my arm around them.
Absolutely.
This is just me putting my arm around them when they come into the camp at the start, to make them feel good and make them feel welcome. And it says, you're only here because you deserve to be here, so do what you need to do on the pitch and you'll be fine.
So many of them cite you as their hero. And as you said there, like, what you did by putting your arm around them must have meant so much to those players. Do you wish that you had someone like that to look up to when you were playing? Does it frustrate you, I suppose, that there weren't the same pathways for when you were playing as there is now? Like, it has come so far.
Oh, absolutely. I had managers that put their arm around me, and two managers in particular, that's Hugo Richardson and Sonia Bradish. Sonia Bradish, like, just by putting his arm around me and saying to me, you're the best in the world. It meant the world to me, you know what I mean? And when I do that, when I apparently did that to the girls, they told me 10, 15 years later, Olivia, you don't understand that talk we had in Portugal at the tournament. You set me down, you says to me, you had a bad game, so what? Just get on with the next game, you'll be fine. But the pathway they have now, I had no pathway. I fought for everything that I achieved. For the simple reason is, there was no women's sports then. Yeah. Do you know? So, everything that I have achieved, all these accolades and all, it means so much to me. But what means a lot to me is women is where they should be today, where they should have been 20 years ago.
You did it all for the love of the green,
Absolutely.
to represent your country at the highest level. What were the main challenges or setbacks that you faced to get to where you got to?
Well, most of the setbacks was people telling me I shouldn't be I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I'm a girl. Shouldn't be playing with boys. What you doing? You know, like angiography comments and, you know. But what I did, I didn't listen. I absolutely ignored it because I want.
Which isn't an easy thing to do.
Oh no! Believe me, I went to me home. I went home to me mother and cried, like every other little girl that's after getting dropped from the team, and same as everyone else. But I always had a determination. The main thing that I have for my sport is passion, and you cannot be passionate for any sport. That I believe a winner has to have passion for what they're winning. I believe Kate Taylor has passion, Kelly Harrington, Ellen, the swimmer. You need to have passion to win and be the best. And that's, I'm not a good loser. I'm not.
Well, it's clear that you had that passion and you still have that passion in abundance. Are you proud when you look at the current football team that women have here in Ireland about what they have achieved and how far they have come?
Yeah, like 2 years ago, probably 2 or 3 people in here didn't even know what the Irish team is. Do you know, in the last 2 years, it's just taken off. But it could have been done so much earlier, so much like 10 years ago, as you said earlier on, from grassroots up. If we walk from grassroots up, we could have a phenomenal team, an absolute phenomenal, with the Irish ladies and the Irish men and the amateurs and the AUA. You have to grow it. You have to grow soccer for the build. You can't, like, to me, quarter-final against Romania, Ireland, Jack Charlton, we never built. So if you build on it, I reckon that we'll be going to tournaments with a flick of a switch. And so will the girls. This is the girls' rifle opportunity now to get to a European or a World Cup ever in their lifetime. And this is the opportunity to do it now. Because we played against Iceland, we were like 20 minutes away from going to a European Championship for the first time ever, but it didn't happen. But you build and build and build. And what FAIRDA is doing and what the FAI is doing now at the moment is phenomenal. Making it equal is the main thing. Because I've been on, like Ryan Keane, the executives up the top and we're down the bottom of the plane. Like, it's the same thing with the girls, it's no different. But now that it's all equal, I can see our girls going to tournament. Absolutely.
It's amazing to see really how far things have come and the part that you have played to get it to this point can't go unrecognised. Like, do you think about what you have achieved yourself and looking back at all you have done, what stands out to you as your biggest achievement?
I don't really give myself praise, if you know what I mean. I'm a very humble person, and to me, playing football, it's a pleasure. So it's not a burden. It's not that I have to do this to make this happen. But I know what I've achieved. I don't think anyone else is ever going to score 54 goals for Ireland.
Absolutely.
But don't get me wrong, I would actually love somebody to do that for us to get to a World Cup or a tournament. Absolutely. But my greatest achievement was carrying the Olympic flame. Because it was so out of the blue, and it was for me achievements for what I did in football, in soccer, and so to carry that Olympic flame, it was just the most poignant moment of my life. I know I've won the FAI award 3 times and Ireland's Hall of Fame, and I don't mean to be flippant, it's just the
That was
Olympic
the special
flame,
moment,
yeah.
yes.
And when he came over to Lyra, you know, when he lit it, and he said, now nobody can else put, the only person that can put that out was me with this key. And I said, so how can I light it again? He says, with this key. I said, so are you giving it to me? And he said, no, he didn't give it to me. But I have it in me, it's up, it's hanging up in the bed. It's in my mother's home hanging, and it's lovely.
Absolutely. I think that deserves a round of applause on its own. And what's next for you now, Olivia? Are you still involved with soccer underage? Are you looking into coaching, or what would you like to achieve now?
I am at the moment I'm managing Usher Celtic ladies. And as you can hear, they're all here. Which I didn't know they were here. I didn't know. But these girls came to me and they wanted a team, and with me coach Suzanne, the two of us took her over, and we absolutely love her, and that's why I love teaching girls from this age up. And when these girls see the likes of Katie Taylor or Katie McCabe, Louise Quinn, like there's girls up there that want to be like them, and I'm going to make them like that. I try my best to make them play in the National League and play for Ireland. That's my goal, to let them build and build and build, and they...
And do you get the same buzz now? Maybe not the same, but are you still getting that buzz that you got from playing now from coaching?
Yeah, I love it. Because I love seeing, like, for instance, we only started last year, and this year one of our girls has gone to Shelbourne's under 19s. You know, so that's what I improve. I want them to improve, and I want them to reach their goals. I want them to, if you want to play for Ireland, don't ever let anyone to say you can't.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Olivia, you are a star, and it's amazing to have you here tonight. Congratulations on your award, and thank you for all that you have done for women's sport and all that you have achieved for Ireland.
And thank you very much for this award.
One of us more for Olivia too. Stay. Amazing, isn't it?
Congratulations to all the award winners tonight. Well deserved, and some phenomenal achievements. Thanks to everybody that's made this possible, genuinely, from myself, from my business partner Mohammed, and from the HerSport team. It's incredible to stand here and to have managed to pull this together. The past 2 years for us, obviously everybody's been in the same situation with COVID, and we've really tried to make the most of it, and we're trying to just keep pushing things forward for women's sport. To come back to UCD as an alumni, to stand here in the hall where we would have been at Sports Awards, and now to have the HerSport Awards with Gym+Coffee is really something special for us. As mentioned, we couldn't do it without the sponsors, so huge thank you to Gym+Coffee, Revive Active, Sky, Whoop, Club Force, TG Caher, and also to UCD for working with us on this project. It really could not have happened without you, so thank you so much from our team. Other than that, thanks so much to everybody that has come here tonight, everybody that's watching at home, everyone that's been with us from the start of our journey. It started as a project essentially in 2018, and look where we are now. So I hope to see everybody here again next year and keep pushing the boundaries for women's sport.